With the Indianapolis 500 looming on the horizon, I wanted to make a video regarding that race. So I decided, why not combine my first love of motorsports with my second and present to you 10 drivers who could race at Indianapolis in the either not so distant future or in a far off fantasy. I'll compromise this list starting off with the drivers with improbable odds to even be on the entry list, or the rumor mill, to drivers that have a very real shot at being in it. Starting off, we have Bubba Wallace. I know, this one will get a lot of people talking and surely sum up in arms. But come on, even if it would be a publicity stunt, it'd be pretty cool seeing the first black driver in Indy since George Mack in 2002, and only the third in history after the aforementioned Mack and the great Willie T. Ribbs. So what would be his ride? Honestly, I could see him driving for the captain. How? Well, there is a team in the lower ranks of Indy called Force Indy, owned by a black team owner, and during the unveiling of the team, Roger Penske was all hands on deck to witness the birth of it. But what do I know? This is number 10 and is honestly a fantasy floating about in my head. At number 9, we have the driver of the 9, Chase Elliott. Elliott makes this list simply because he's a young champion, worthy of talent, and will probably make his Indy 500 debut further down the road. It could happen in the near foreseeable future, but I think Chase is going to wait till he exasperated his Cup career to the point that he's just bored of it, and checks all the boxes except this oh-so-sweet reward. And the answer is too obvious on who he would race for. With Jimmy Johnson in the 48 in IndyCar, he could guide Chase into the team known as Chip Ganassi Racing, so he could groom the Dawsonville native to being a superb racing driver on the ovals when Johnson gets to drive them. And yes, I do think he will soon. Once he's done with IndyCar, I think Chase's door is open fully in his favor. There is no other great driver in America than Kyle Larson, period. Larson is so versatile, and he's proven that time and time again. If he hops into an Indy car, he may very well be like Kurt Busch and show competitive spirit, especially if he's on a team like CGR, a team he's all too familiar with. I put him this low just because he doesn't seem all that interested, and is probably more focused on achieving a Cup championship and a NASCAR crown jewel before he goes Indy 500 digging. Another driver who could drive for the man atop the quarterdeck is Denny Hamlin. Hamlin in a few years will have probably hung up his helmet, or thought thoroughly about his future in the Cup Series. And so the impending question that you should ask as a competitor is, what's next? And an Indy 500 at a track he's very good at could be the answer to that burning fire to race. You know who would blend in almost perfectly into an Indy 500 field? An international driver on the grid. And no better driver than Daniel Suarez to take the wheel behind the open wheel machine. Daniel is a very talented racer in his own right. And while his Indianapolis track results aren't anything too impressive, it would still be pretty cool seeing one of our own in the field. And I think the team he could drive for is McLaren. I mean, you have a fellow amigo hailing from Mexico in the form of Pato O'Ward, and perhaps a seat in the 86 sometime in the future, and what do you know? You have a driver that could turn some eyeballs and tilt some heads. Another driver who fits in the trend of what's next is Ryan Newman, who's basically retired as far as we know. I know Newman wants to keep racing in NASCAR, but perhaps other ventures and other joints, especially one at his home track, could still keep his hopes up high in the air and fuel the inner racer stuck inside him. And because of these Ford ties and being an ex-Chevy man himself, what about another driver in the Penske conversation? This whole video is basically a who should drive for Penske in the 500, isn't it? Well, you can't ignore Harvick, here at number 4, can you? While the driver of the 4 is also reaching the end of his career, and perhaps the end of his peak, what better way to give an old bird another go at flapping those wings than a new nest tricky and wild like Indianapolis, a track Harvick has won 3 times and knows how to get it done, here when it matters most. Now for 2 drivers who actually race at Team Penske, here at 3 and 2. Well, actually this one isn't going to be here for much longer, is he? His name is Brad Keslowski. Keslowski and Indy is about as good of a combination next to Americans and their flag. And that would be pretty cool seeing this renowned race car driver bearing that flag if he wins. So yes, I think this is very likely to happen, and knowing Brad, it will probably happen at the end of his career, or near the end due to his focus more on the Cup Series. Hey, but at least there won't be a Joey Logano anywhere near. Or will there? Sliced bread is also really good at Indy, and while he hasn't struck that magical chord here yet, you know doing that is paramount for the 30-year-old. Expect for this opportunity for the captain to come shortly after a win at the track, in the not-so-distant future. Taking the icing on the cake for drivers who can participate at Indy is obviously Kyle Busch. Busch has planned to race at Indy numerous times, and the fact it hasn't happened at all is frankly due to two restrictions: Joe Gibbs and Toyota. Gibbs, while not vocal on this, has appeared to be a little cautious on Kyle's ventures outside of NASCAR and wants to keep him close to home, or at least as close as possible. And if not in team, then at least in the manufacturer. With no Toyotas at Indy, it has made it that much more difficult for Kyle to get in, and I honestly think he's probably going to race at Indy once he hangs up the helmet. But who knows? He almost ran into Chevrolet, which was rumored to correlate to Penske in the 2020 Indy 500 before that got cancelled because of, well, you know. So, maybe that elusive start is closer than we realize. Now, I want to hear from you. Who do you think might be close to getting an Indy 500 start? Do you agree or disagree with this list? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, this has been the news. I'll see ya.